It's time for Lumberjack!
Lumberjacks is sponsored by Echo, only professional grade with 5-year warranty. Crown, protect, maintain, save. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Yamaha, rev your heart.
We're out here in beautiful British Columbia, right on the Campbell River for the annual Salmon Festival and the Logger Sports Competition. And this year, it's their 50th annual. Hi, I'm Bill Diva with my co-host, Lumberjack sport analyst Rod Cumberland. And Rod, I know you're riding in town a couple of days early this year to do some fishing.
There's 5 species of salmon in the river here right now. They call it the salmon capital of Canada for a reason. The pinks are in, man, they're stacked up just like cordwood in this river. Unbelievable.
Now, we're here for the Logger Sports Competition. This week, we've got a couple of exciting events. We got the women's choker race. The audience always loves that one.
The audience loves seeing people get wet, but our seasoned veteran Danielle Koch is probably the favorite in that. She's going to try to get across and back without getting her feet wet at all.
And in the men's single buck, a little bit different from what you're used to seeing.
Yeah, they use the traditional saws out here, the long salmon-back saws. They're 4-peg and raker. You've got to find a really good saw and then have somebody that's really good to sharpen it for you. That one's going to be a tough one to call. We'll see who has the best blade here.
Well, Campbell River is a beautiful little town on the east coast of Vancouver Island. Population 35,000 people. If you're coming for a visit, you got to go to the Dockside Marina and have lunch at the Dockside Fish and Chips. Last week we got started with a great competition. We're now 1/3 of the way through the competition with Brian BARTOW way out in front with a 250-point lead over Jason Lenz and a strong field trying to catch him. But this competition out in BC, they're all set up for Brian BARTOW. We're heading into the single buck competition, the traditional single buck. We're going to be showing you the top 4 heats. This first heat, Carl Bischoff taking on Brian BARTOW.
Brian BARTOW at the World Championships. All the choppers, Sawyers on one side of this big pond. The log rollers, speed climbers on the other side. Brian BARTOW, one of the few competitors in history that have jumped the pond. He says, I've done enough log rolling, I've done enough speed climbing. Let me see if I can single buck, and he is one of the best.
Now, Dave, I know your expertise is in the single buck, but how many times have you run these traditional single buckers, which are a whole lot more difficult to pull, and they start with no starter cut on top?
Oh, I remember Angel Fire, New Mexico. I ran one of these saws. These saws were made in the 40s and 50s, but now they are filed with modern-day hand filing, and they're extremely fast.
And you can't get too aggressive with these saws. You can see at the very beginning of Brian BARTOW's cut on the left-hand side, he pushed a little bit too hard, and the saw had a bit of a bow. Yeah,
this event brings out the best competitor. You have to feed the saw straight. They are 12 gauge, but they taper to a thin gauge, so they can buckle. Well, this is going to be tight at the bottom. Brian BARTOW feeding it straight in that small wood at the bottom. Good finish.
Sets the time to beat at 36.78. A big challenge, a different kind of single buck from a lot of the competitions have. Traditional peg and raker. Tell me about it.
Oh yeah, the old misery whip. They're a lot tougher to run, a lot more temperamental. They're good, good practice using them, and a lot harder to pull for sure.
Well, it certainly looks like about 36.78 seconds worth of hard work there for BARTOW as we head into heat number 2. Ben Leffler taking on Mitch Hewitt. Ben Leffler is actually our announcer for this competition, putting down the microphone, handing it over to Michelle as he takes part in his second heat, taking on the chopper, Mitch Hewitt.
Yeah, I've been watching Mitch Hewitt single buck for years, and he openly says, I just don't like this event. But this is my first time watching Ben Leffler. Ben Leffler really not extending his arms. He wants to extend his arms all the way, but that saw is cutting. Whoever filed Ben's saw on the left right there, that thing's cutting some wood.
One of the keys to success in this, of course, mentioned at the top of the show, is the fact you gotta find someone that can file the saw for you, and then you gotta be able to handle it. Ben on the left-hand side, powering through this wood, making mincemeat out of it.
Short stroking it, worried he might buckle it if he pulls the entire saw, but that short stroking technique is gonna work. That's unofficially our fastest time.
33.58 puts him in first. Hey, Ben, that was a great race with Mitch Hewitt over there. Just tell me about it's all about cardio and endurance and this kind of thing, because it's you doing the cutting along with an old saw.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really fortunate. I got a great sponsor, Metro Blasting, produced a fantastic traditional saw for me. And I knew I was up against it with Mitch because he's a hell of a competitor, a world-class guy, and boy, I just had to pull it out, give it everything I got. The stamina side, I was struggling at the end, I'm not going to lie. It was a tough bit of wood, and we got through it.
So you're pulling double duty today. You're on the microphone and you're pulling a saw as well. Is that to help pay for the airfare home?
No, not at all. None of this is about money for me. It's about pleasure, and I've been really fortunate to be on the mic, but I really wanted to get back and do a bit more competing, and the shows have been very generous and let me get off the mic and enjoy what I got into in the first place, and that's logger sports. We all need to have a taste.
Thanks for your time.
Awesome, Bill. Go Lumberjacks.
Well, Dave, you commented in that last heat about Ben short stroking. He had a pretty good time coming in at 33.58, put him in first place, but short stroking is really not what you want to do.
No, I still say if you can pull the whole saw, pull the whole saw. You have to pull it back. Actually, you'll watch these guys. You need to brace your forearm against it. That'll actually support the saw. But the more teeth you can pull, you need to pull that whole belly. The belly, you see these saws, they have an arc to them, a belly. That's what does the cutting. So you need to push the whole thing through and pull it all the way back.
Well, we're now into heat number 3. Dave McLeod on the left, Ryan McIntyre from Truro, Nova Scotia on the right-hand side. Dave McLeod had a few struggles at the beginning, but now he's using the whole saw and really working his way through the wood.
Well, you heard Ben Leffler say this is a tough log. It requires stamina, and they had the chance to watch Ben. Dave McLeod using the entire saw. He hung the raker one time. The raker cleans the wood. It does not cut it. Oh, right there. It'll stop you dead. I'd say Brian Bartow cut the best at the bottom, but Dave McLeod, that's very fast. That'll be close.
And McLeod coming in with a 35.9. Were you getting a little bit too aggressive at the beginning? You buckled the saw twice at the beginning and a little bit at the end. Is that trying to get too aggressive, or what was that?
Just a brain fart. Forgot I was running the traditional, and they're a little more finicky than the modified pegs. You got to just be a little gentler with them. That's all.
Well, if Dave were a little bit more gentle at the beginning of his heat, probably would have lowered his time a little bit. But right now, Ben Leffler still a time to beat with 33.58 as we head into heat number 4, the traditional single buck racing. Nick Russell taking on American Derek Pouchnick.
Well, they're in the last heat for a reason. They're bringing confidence because look at the length of these saws they have out there. That's an 18-inch white pine log. If they can get these saws started straight at the top of the log, this could be your number 1 and 2 time.
Well, Nick Russell using a good full stroke, a little bit of a buckle there as he catches a raker, but he's right back into it. And Nick Russell doing a lot of good pushing and pulling.
They're about even to the halfway mark. I like how Derek is running the belly, running with the belly of the saw. But look at the power. Nick Russell powering off the bottom third.
Trying to take down 33.58 of Ben Leffler. And Nick Russell comes off with a 29.52, winning the traditional single buck, just edging out Derek Pouchnick. How long is that saw? I mean, to be able to pull that saw well and cut with it well and not buckle. Good job. Tell me how long the saw is.
It's a 7-foot saw. It buckled once on me, but you can't put any weight on because it's going to buckle. I was trying to give it a little bit more weight, and I had to tone back a little bit.
Excellent job there by Nick Russell pulling that 7-foot saw. He's the only guy coming in under 30 seconds, beating the rest of the field by 4, winning it with a 29.52.
Well, this is the 50th anniversary for the Salmon Festival and the logger sports here in Campbell River. A great tradition with all kinds of events going on throughout the year. Last night was all the kids' events in logger sports, and today it's novice and intermediate and advanced, and also the professional categories. But probably the most interesting will be the new event this year of the United States against Canada, a little bit of friendly rivalry of North versus South for bragging rights in the bush. We're really looking forward to that. But with the logger sports, it's who we are here in Campbell River. The forest sector is critically important to our economy, and we're extremely supportive and proud of all of the industries that make up that significant portion for us. And great fun to have another huge event here in Campbell River. Look forward to it every year.
And many thanks to the people of Campbell River and the mayor himself for rallying behind this competition year after year. For 50 years strong now, the Logger Sports Competition and the Campbell River Salmon Festival. We are heading into the pole climb, 80 feet up and down. We're going to be showing the top 2 heats. Transplanted Ontario guy, now living in British Columbia, Nick Hall, taking on Brian Bartow.
Well, Brian Bartow has just dominated this event just like his father did. Watch the real estate they cover on each stride. And both these competitors using the new age toe gaff. The gaff's coming off the toe, allowing the calf muscle and the thigh muscle to work.
And BARTOW is trying to open up a little bit of a lead over Hall here, but watch the descent as he climbs up to 80 feet. He's going to come down a lot faster, and sometimes that's where the race is won and lost.
Brian BARTOW has the most controlled down of any speed climber I've ever seen, and he lands from 80 feet like he jumped off the picnic table.
And Nick, trying to catch Brian the last 20 feet, goes for a free fall. Brian, pretty good climb. I only saw one slip at the very beginning, maybe first couple of steps. Can you tell me anything you could have done better, or was that pretty much your good game?
It definitely could have been better. The trees are a little hard, so kind of tough to get those spurs to set right. But yeah, a couple little slips at the bottom, but made out with the win, so I'm happy.
Can you tell the hardness of the tree? I think these trees have been here 5 or 6 years now. They get more difficult as the years go by?
Definitely. I mean, they have a few knots and there's cracks, and so longer they bake out here in the sun, they just get hard.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, it's always been a tradition at the World Championships that the best speed climber in the world has to wear a dress the night of the party, and Brian BARTOW, he's been a good sport, and he's earned that dress many, many years.
Well, Brian BARTOW in heat number 1's got a 22.86. It's the final heat of the pole climb, 80 feet up and down. Dave McLeod taking on Trevor Schofield, a couple of Nova Scotia boys.
Well, Dave McLeod seems to do every event. Look at Trevor Schofield, the length of his strides. Now that pole's 80 feet, it's tapering, so they're gathering lanyard as they go up to keep themselves close and tight to the pole.
Looks like McLeod had a little bit of a slowdown there around 50 feet, giving an advantage to Trevor Schofield, who's now on his way down, steps his way down gingerly, getting down to the 20-foot mark and slides the rest of the way down. Trevor Schofield comes in with a 25.81, good enough for 3rd place in the pole climb. I know you're a Easterner. You spent a lot of time out west. How much were you doing that out west when you were here?
I was out west before. I was pole climbing quite a bit. That was my best event when I finished. And then I moved back east in 2009 was the last year I competed pole climb, and this is literally the first climb since I've done it since then.
Well, the pole climb is always a crowd pleaser, and Brian BARTOW's been winning them for many years. He wins this one at 80 feet up and down with a 22.86.
Closed captioning is brought to you by 1867 Confederation Log and Timber Frame, Canada's leader in log and timber frame homes since 1979. This is Living.
And we're back out here in Campbell River, British Columbia for the 50th annual Logger Sports Competition at the Campbell River Salmon Festival. We are heading into the women's single buck. We're going to be showing you the top 4 heats. This first heat, Danielle Koch taking on Brenda Pouchnick from Viola, Idaho.
16 inches of white pine, West Coast white pine. It always seems to be tougher than the pine on the East Coast. What a beautiful start, though, for Danielle Koch. She had that saw level, allowing her to cut a lot of wood on the pull stroke.
A few struggles for Brenda on the left-hand side. Growing up in Port Alberni, BC, part of the Boyko family, she's struggling a little bit. Danielle Koch powering through the wood, struggling at the end there, catching a few rakers, getting into the small wood, but Danielle Koch wins the first heat with an 18.65 and sets the time to beat. Pretty good cut all the way through down there. You must be pleased with your performance, but what happened at the end there, last 3 or 4 strokes?
It was just a little bit of a sticky wood, and I probably didn't come down enough with my legs. I thought about where I wanted to put my handle because this is soft wood. If you have 4 holes in your saw, you can either put the handle high or low, and I took a risk putting the handle high so you can have lots of pressure. But I think with this soft, sticky wood, I probably could have gone low. It would have been a little smoother cut.
Bill, what I saw in that replay there, the last couple strokes she extended but didn't hang on tight enough, and that's 15 pounds of saw dipping down, which allows that raker to grab into the wood on the pull stroke. I don't care how strong you are, you're not pulling the raker through the wood.
Well, 18.65 is the time to beat, set by Danielle in that first heat. This is heat number 2. Sarah Mooney taking on Dawn Briscoe. And look at the coach of Dawn Briscoe on the left-hand side. It's a legendary single bucker, Norm Gowdy.
Well, let's talk about these wedgers. They're like the 3rd base coach of lumberjack sports. They're gonna put the wedge in, free the saw up, keep the competitor going when that lactic acid is building up, and keep the saw lubricated.
Great job for John Briscoe on their left-hand side, but look at Sarah Mooney, not quite the pace, but look at the saw dropping. And Sarah Mooney comes off in 25.03, just edging out Dawn Briscoe, the older sister of Allison. I see you're using a Jim Taylor saw there. It looks pretty new. Just tell me about the saw in general.
I got it 2 seasons. This is 2nd season I've had it. Really nice free saw. Cuts good for me. Nice and light.
I'm a single buck and axe throw are 2 of your real good strengths. Just tell me about that single buck there.
That one felt really good. Probably the best one I've had this year. I'm having a bit of a rough go, but no, that one felt really good.
Well, 2 more heats to go. We still got Danielle Koch leading the way right now. This next heat, Anita ZALEWSKI taking on ERIN LAVOIE from Spokane, Washington.
Well, buckle up. ERIN LAVOIE won the World Championships in the United States. She just got back from Sydney, Australia, and oh yeah, she won the World Championships in the single buck down there. Now she's attacking the Canadians.
And a good push stroke there for ERIN on the right-hand side. You can see her using the full saw. You can see her burying the nose of the saw on her pull strokes. Anita needs to use a little bit more in the push stroke.
And that is a dead level stroke. It's on an angle, but the saw is staying on the same angle. Perfect textbook cut. That's just another day at the office for LAVOIE.
And with only 1 heat to go, it's gonna be tough to beat. A pretty good saw there, but here your coach, Jason, whether he's your coach or not, giving you a few tips. What are the tips?
He is a good coach. I keep chattering, so when I drive the saw through and then I start pulling back, for some reason it just keeps chattering on me for like the last 5 cuts now. So we're trying to figure out why. I think I need to step back a little bit. And he said don't cut so much with the toe and just more heel. I'll have to take a look at the video.
Yeah, so I heard him talking to you, and it doesn't look like you're cutting the far wood on your pull stroke.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Good job working on that.
Yep, thanks.
Well, nice level saw there, and that's the key to the game in the single buck. We're heading into heat number 4, the final heat. Allison Briscoe taking on Nancy ZALEWSKI, and 17.12 is the time to beat. One or both of these women could take that time down.
For the last few years, Nancy's been nowhere in the singles. She just recovered from major hip surgery, won the World Championships again, and now she's back. But there is a lot of chatter about Allison Briscoe.
Allison Briscoe, new on the scene the last couple of years from Port McNeill, British Columbia, being coached by Nick Russell. But look at the pressure putting on by Nancy ZALEWSKI. Allison trying to keep pace with her.
Allison's gonna win this heat after, oh no, a couple hooks at the bottom. Oh, and that wing just fell away. She had it.
And the fist pump is all in vain because Nancy wins the single buck. Very deliberate and very powerful strokes there. So you're kind of really pushing a lot of weight on that saw.
Yeah, I had to. It's my double saw. So it's short, it's light, and I said, well, you can only bring so much out with weight restrictions for flying. So I knew what I needed to get into it. I really needed to force it to cut. And it worked out quite well, actually. I was pretty happy with it.
Well, all 4 of these competitors well under 20 seconds. I'm watching Allison Briscoe. Apparently, she's coming to the World Championships. Nancy ZALEWSKI taking the win for now, but she'll have to be ready next year.
Power on and on. Echo.
When purchasing a trimmer, there are 2 options, curved shaft or straight shaft. Here we have 2 identical 21.2 cc engines, the only difference being the shaft shapes. The curved shaft trimmers for light-duty, lightweight, entry-level small yards. The straight shafts for heavy-duty grass and weeds, large acreage owners, and commercial landscapers. Its robust shaft allows it to be blade-capable, taking care of those heavy-duty jobs. One of the most important aspects of choosing a trimmer is the ease with which one can string their trimmer head. Echo's created 2 of the most innovative trimmer heads in the industry, our speed feed, as well as our rapid loader. Warranty is also an important aspect of the purchase of a trimmer. Echo has one of the industry's best 5-year consumer warranties.
Here we are back in Campbell River, British Columbia, the Logger Sports Competition. It's part of the Campbell River Salmon Festival, now in its 50th year. There's a shot of Ben Lefter, one of the best MCs in the business. Him and his wife, Michelle, travel around Western Canada, entertaining crowds in all aspects of lumberjack sports. We are heading into the choker race. This first heat, Carly Stinson from Missoula, Montana. She's actually a university student down there, taking on ERIN LAVOIE, a couple of Americans, in the first of 2 heats of the choker race.
Well, this is an event that will display the most well-rounded lumberjill. Keep an eye on ERIN LAVOIE, the CrossFit instructor. She brings physicality, athleticism, and focus, especially in this event, a log chained up over water.
She's over the bunk log ahead of Carly Stinson in this one as she heads over to the sawhorse bunk log where they're going to throw the 60-pound cable, set it in the bell, and head back around the standing block stand and over the log and over the pond.
Oh, this is where ERIN LAVOIE's speed is going to pay off. Look at that, only 6 steps over that final log and a little celebration there.
And LAVOIE sets the time to beat at 23.5 seconds. You went over the bunk log 2 different ways. One was a 2-foot thing and one was sort of a 2-knee straddle. Just tell me about the 2 differences.
It's funny because it's not something I do in my backyard, so you never know what's going to come out by the time you get there. Like it's a footing thing, which foot's leading, and then the bunk log comes up all of a sudden, what's my position. But also on the way to there, you're dragging this choker with you, so you don't have as much power to get up and over. But you take the choker away and you can full on just hurdle that baby.
Well, the women's choker race is now heading into its last heat. Time to beat 23.52 set by ERIN LAVOIE. This next heat, Deanna Pontini from Squamish, British Columbia, taking on Charmin Pryor from Vancouver.
And the worst thing they can do is think about that time ERIN LAVOIE said. You can't lose your focus, especially right away. These logs chained up over water, and they will spin. They're just connected on either end, but they are allowed to pivot.
Well, one of the keys here is to looking ahead, not looking down at your feet. And I see Miss Charmin made that mistake. She was looking down at her feet as Deanna makes her way around the standing block and setting the choker cable into the bell.
Oh, and then she's just losing a little bit of time there. Gianna having a real good run. And that looks like a legal hitch there.
Oh, she didn't go around the standing block stand. She's got to go back. The judge has called her back. This has opened the door for Charmin to catch up. She missed it again there as she makes it around the bunk log, and Charmin has a chance to catch up right now.
Well, you can see Deanna's face. She's having a good time at this point. She knows she's going to be getting second or third place, and Charmin is bringing it home now. And once that log starts spinning, you just can't recover.
Just tell me about the route you took on the way back. Were you a little bit confused?
It was the scenic route, you know. Now, I don't know. I've done a different choker race, and it was a totally different setup.
But one of the keys is to watch the people in front of you at the way they go.
Yeah, that works too, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
And apologies go out to Danielle Koch for missing her heat, coming in a fantastic second with 23.52. ERIN LAVOIE winning it exactly 2 seconds ahead with a 21.52.
And the crown pivotal point goes to Ben Leffler. He was on the mic all day, but only 33 seconds it took him to earn second place in the single buck, and he says, I'm pretty good at this.
And Brian BARTOW, one of the most versatile lumberjacks on the planet. He can do it all, and he's increased his lead to almost 300 points over second place and Jason Lenz.
And our lumber Jill of the day goes to the girl I keep hearing about in the single buck, Allison Briscoe. Without that little mishap at the bottom, she could have won it at only 17, a future world champion.
And special thanks to all the sponsors involved in helping this show run. Jim Lilburn and Phil Hicks, along with Dougie and Dave. Come back again next week when it'll be time for Lumberjacks.
Lumberjacks is sponsored by Echo, only professional grade with 5-year warranty. Crown, protect, maintain, save. Dickies, quality workwear since 1922. Yamaha, rev your heart.
You heard us talking at the start of the show about the single buck and how it differs out here in Campbell River. Well, I've got a couple of saws here to show you the difference up close. This here's a modern-day single buck crosscut saw. This here's the old-fashioned single buck saw that they're running here. The modern one has 26 rakers on it. They're all filed with a file. The rakers on the old-fashioned crosscut saw, there's only 15 of them, and they're actually hammered with a hammer to sharpen these ones. The teeth on these aren't quite as sharp on the old-fashioned ones, and they're a little bit thinner gauge steel.